The shout cut through the salty air like a knife. "Move, Cripple!" Emily Carter barely had time to turn her head before a rough kick struck the side of her wheelchair, jolting her forward. The sound of metal scraping wood echoed across Santa Monica Pier, and for a split second, the laughter of tourists, the cries of seagulls, and the distant music from street performers all seemed to vanish. What remained was Emily's sharp intake of breath, and the cruel laughter of three teenage boys who thought the world belonged to them. Emily was 19, small-framed, with chestnut hair pulled into a simple braid by her mother that morning. Since the car accident 5 years earlier, her legs no longer obeyed her, but her spirit had learned to stand in other ways. She came to the pier every Sunday afternoon because it reminded her she was still part of life. The ocean didn't care about wheelchairs. The sky didn't stare. Here, she could just breathe. But that afternoon, cruelty found her. The boys circled her like sharks, emboldened by the crowd's indifference. One of them, taller than the rest, leaned down and mocked her twisted legs. Another kicked the wheel again, harder this time. Emily's hands trembled as she gripped the armrests, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. "Please," she whispered, her voice nearly lost to the wind. "Just leave me alone." They didn't. A shove sent her chair tilting dangerously close to the pier's edge. A few people noticed. Some looked away. Others froze, unsure, unwilling. Fear spread through Emily's chest, not just fear of falling, but the old, familiar fear that her life didn't matter enough to protect. That was when the rumble began. At first, it sounded like distant thunder rolling in from the horizon. Then it grew louder, deeper, heavier, until the wooden planks beneath everyone's feet began to vibrate. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. The boys laughed at first, thinking it was just a spectacle. They were wrong. From the far end of the pier, motorcycles poured in like a tide, dozens of them, then more. Chrome flashed in the sunlight. Leather jackets bore crosses, wings, and weathered patches. Engines roared in unison, not wild or reckless, but controlled, purposeful. The crowd parted as if pushed by an invisible force. At the front rode a broad-shouldered man with a gray beard and calm, watchful eyes. His name was Michael Hayes. Michael had been a biker for over 30 years, but he was also a husband, a father, and a man who carried his faith quietly, stitched into his actions rather than spoken aloud. That day, his group, the Iron Cross Riders, had gathered to honor a fallen brother. They hadn't come looking for trouble. But trouble had found someone who couldn't run from it. Michael saw Emily first, not her wheelchair, her face. He saw the fear there, the humiliation, the tears she was trying desperately to hold back. He saw the boys too, smirking, careless, cruel. Something hardened in his chest, not anger alone, but a deep, righteous resolve. He raised his hand. Engines cut off one by one, until silence fell like a heavy blanket. The bikers dismounted and began to walk forward, not fast, not shouting, just steady. They surrounded the scene naturally, instinctively, forming a wide circle. Leather boots thudded against the pier. The laughter of the boys died instantly. "What's going on here?" Michael asked, his voice calm but unyielding. None of the boys answered. One took a step back and nearly collided with another biker, a tall man named Daniel Brooks, whose crossed arms and quiet stare said more than words ever could. "They were just joking," one boy muttered weakly. Michael looked at Emily again. Her hands shook. Her eyes were glossy with tears. There was nothing funny about her pain. "Son," Michael said slowly, "jokes don't leave people afraid." The boys tried to push through the circle, but it tightened, not threatening, just firm. The message was clear: you're not going anywhere until this is made right. Emily felt something unfamiliar wash over her. Safety. For the first time since the attack began, she wasn't alone. A woman biker stepped forward, Sarah Miller, her silver hair tied back, her jacket worn soft with age. She knelt beside Emily, meeting her at eye level. "Are you hurt, sweetheart?" Sarah asked gently. Emily shook her head, then nodded, unsure which was true. I think I'm okay. Sarah smiled warmly. You're safe now. Police sirens wailed in the distance, called by someone in the crowd who had finally found their courage. The boys' bravado crumbled. Their shoulders slumped. Fear replaced arrogance. When the officers arrived, the bikers stepped back, giving space. Michael explained calmly what they had witnessed. Several bystanders, emboldened now, spoke up too. Phones came out. Evidence was clear. The boys were escorted away, their faces pale, their eyes fixed on the ground. But the story didn't end there. Michael walked back to Emily and crouched beside her. I'm sorry this happened to you, he said quietly. You didn't deserve it. Emily swallowed hard. Thank you, all of you. I thought no one was going to help. Michael shook his head. Sometimes help comes loud, he said with a small smile, glancing at the bikes, and sometimes it comes late, but it should always come. The bikers didn't leave immediately. They stayed with Emily until her mother, Grace Carter, arrived, breathless and shaken. When she saw her daughter safe and surrounded by strangers who had become guardians, she broke down in tears. Michael removed his gloves and held her hands, offering comfort without conditions. Over the following weeks, the video spread across the internet. Headlines focused on the sea of bikers who stood up for a disabled girl, but what mattered more was what followed. The Iron Cross Riders started a foundation in Emily's name, advocating for people with disabilities and anti-bullying programs. Emily, once shy and withdrawn, found her voice. She began speaking at schools, telling her story, not as a victim but as a survivor. She often ended her talks with the same words. I thought strength was standing on your own two legs, she would say. But I learned strength is standing up for someone who can't, and being brave enough to let others stand with you. And every now and then, on a sunny Sunday afternoon, the rumble of motorcycles could still be heard at Santa Monica Pier. Not as a warning, but as a promise. A promise that cruelty would never have the last word. A promise that courage still existed. A promise that even in a world that sometimes looks away, there are people who will stop, turn around, and surround what is right.